Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. And we want to welcome you to our Family Life Enrichment series. We are glad that you could join us this evening, and we are hoping that you will join us for the rest of our series, which continues until the 15th of June. Normally, at this time, we would be having our World Changers Bible study. But what we do is between Mother's Day and Father's Day, we would have our Family Life Enrichment series. So we are excited. We are really, really excited to be able to welcome you to this series. We just trust that your heart will be challenged and that your family life will be enhanced even as you engage with us. So thank you so much for joining us this evening. Our Family Life Enrichment series is brought to you compliments of the Churches of God in Bournes, in St. George, Brereton, in St. Philip, the Garden Community Church in St. James, and Silver Sands in Christ Church. We are partnering together as we present this series to you. And our series is entitled Living Your Best Life. That's a very exciting theme. And I just trust that in the multitude of our deliberations, that indeed we will be able to find ways and opportunities to live our best lives. So thank you so very much for joining us this evening. We are excited to have you, and we are excited to have a special guest speaker with us this evening who will get us started by looking at habits that help and hinder in relation to living our best lives. Toney Olton is the principal consultant of the Potter Center, which was founded in 1998. And he has earned an outstanding reputation among both his individual and corporate clients as a highly competent soft skills trainer and organization development consultant, consistently delivering quality results. He is also highly regarded as a motivational and keynote speaker. A well-qualified, well-rounded I mean, there's so much that I can say about Toney Olton, but I know that he would just want me to for us to jump right into our session this evening. But an outstanding presenter, someone who is very well trained, and you will realize as you engage in this session with him this evening that he gives very sound and very practical advice and challenges you, and as he will challenge us this evening to live our best life. So, Toney, it is great. It is a pleasure for us to have you share with us again. And I am eagerly and excitedly awaiting how God is going to use you in our session this evening. So, welcome to our Family Life Enrichment series. And may God bless you even as you present to us today.
Thanks, Lennox, for the invitation. Thanks for the opportunity to share with your membership, with your congregation. So let me applaud you and your own consistency and leadership in this work, as well as my friend, Gadsden Bess. We've been friends for a very long time. I trust that you're enjoying your retirement and taking every opportunity to enjoy all the rich blessings which God sends your way. I also want to, in beginning, deliberately applaud the organizers, and specifically for titling the way you did tonight's session. I think this is the way the church has to move, because lots of people struggle in their Christian walk, and once we can quote scripture and sing songs, how do we get persons to internalize and apply scripture to their daily walk, to their daily lives? And so when this opportunity was provided, when the invitation was extended, I quickly grabbed the opportunity and said, yes, let us do this. So if you are not if following us online, I'm going to ask you to still be an active participant and join us in our effort here today. So let me share my screen. Yes, you are seeing my screen. So use the chat feature or put your comments in the chat. Here's my first question. And if the answer is yes, say yes, or you can say I have. How many of us have ever driven to work on an off day or a public holiday? In other words, you left home to visit your parents or your in-laws or to visit a friend. It's a bank holiday, it's a Saturday, it's a day off. You leave home deliberately, intentionally to go to some location. And when you catch yourself, you are on the road that you would normally take to go to work. How many of us, and Lennox, I'm going to trust you will give me the feedback. How many of us on the call can identify with that circumstance? Any feedback as yet?
Yes, we have a number of people saying yes, I have.
Okay. What does that number look like?
um, Still trying to get a
All right,
head count.
okay, probably 20 or 30. Question number 2. How many of us, when we turn up for church, sit in the same seat, the same place, Sunday after Sunday, service after service? How many of us do that? Same kind of response? Or if you're in the world of work, there's a training session or a meeting is called, and every time you turn up in the room for the training or for the meeting, you sit in the same seat, the same place. And if anyone is sitting in that seat, we have a problem. We have a problem. Here's the
We have
first.
some me's. We have some me's again. We have a couple no's, but we have quite a few me's coming
Quite
in.
a few me's coming in there.
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
All right.
yes.
So
Yep.
I want you to I want you to close your eyes and imagine you're putting on a pair of slacks. So close your eyes. Imagine you're putting on a pair of slacks, ladies, or a pair of pants, gentlemen. Imagine it and then check yourself and see which foot goes in first. All right. So you've taken them off. I want you to put them back on again. Now take them off and put them on a third time. Now take them off. I suspect that most, if not all, put the same leg first each time. I know for me, it's my right leg, my right foot goes in first. Each time, every time.
So I have a number of people who are saying right and right foot.
Right,
Right
right
foot
foot.
goes in
Yeah, right
first.
foot first. This is because we are fundamentally creatures of habit. We think that we are highly rational individuals. We think that we are very sound in our decision making. Two things. Our decision making is largely emotional, and our decision making is mostly out of habit. It is estimated that 40 to 50% of our decision making on a daily basis flows out of habit. In preparing for my presentation with you today or tonight, my mother came back to me. My mother passed 7 years. This year will be 7 years. She spent most of her adult life in London. One of the things that I really loved about my mum is that even though she spent all that time in London, she still kept her Barbadian accent. The one thing she brought back, because when she retired, they came home. The one thing she brought back was her love of tea. So that I knew if my mum was visiting, I needed to have a hot cup of tea ready. And the hotter the day, the hotter the cup of tea, because she was persuaded that when she drank hot tea, it allowed her body to cool even quicker. Now, I have no idea whether or not that is true, but that was a habit she formed as a person having lived in London for over 30 years. Well, almost 40 years. Um, Her love of tea. She was a habitual tea drinker. I have a little exercise for you. I want you to connect up all 9 of these dots using only 4 straight lines. Connect up all 9 of these dots using only 4 straight lines. When you start, you can't take your pen or pencil off the paper, so you're going to reproduce the dots on a piece of paper. Once you start, you can't retrace your steps, nor can you lift the pen or pencil off the paper. And I'll give you a couple of seconds to solve this puzzle. 9 dots located as they are, and you're to connect all 4 dots using only, all 9 dots using only 4 straight lines. So I know that we're not together, we're not face to face engaging each other. But I've been doing this for a very long time. Very, very, very few people get this right or are able to solve this puzzle. I'll give you a couple more seconds. If somebody says, yes, I have it. Usually when people say they have it, when I check, they have 5 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If they have 4 lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, they've missed 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, you still miss 1. What's happening here? What's happening here is that in our mind's eye, there is something that tells us that this is what we're working with. So tonight's conversation, I'm going to use habit and I'm going to use the word pattern interchangeably, because habits are patterns. So if someone is seeing a pattern, most people are seeing this pattern. So long as you attempt to solve this problem within the confines of this space, you will never get it solved. Here is the solution. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let me go with that for you again. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. That pattern that I referenced, which is a box here, is something that resides in our mind's eye, in our brains. And so we go to our patterns unconsciously. We go to our patterns or our habits without conscious thought. So if you're making notes, make this note. Anytime I am flowing out of a habit, out of a pattern, my cognitive ability, my cognitive skills, not ability, my cognition is not active. I am not thinking consciously. I am just acting. So my wife just walked by. I got quarreled with last week, I think it was, because I, out of habit, will put in the clothes and the water, then the liquid detergent, and then do a good wash. I am instructed that I should put in the water, put in the detergent, let it swish for a while, and then put in the clothes. But we're creatures of habit. When you're flowing out of habit, you're not flowing out of conscious thought. We're talking about patterns and habits. I'm building up my case. What do you see? So if you can put your answers in the chat for me as well, what do you see when you look here? Put the first thing that you see into the chat. And then next I'm going to come back to you again. Any answers?
All right. Seeing faces.
Mm-hmm.
Also seeing faces.
So most people are seeing faces.
Most people are
Yeah?
seeing faces.
Faces. I see a cup
Faces.
of tea. I see a cup of coffee. I see a bag. I see this is like a lookout station. Yeah? This
Hmm?
looks like a meter of some kind. This looks like a pudding. This looks like another kind of meter. This looks like a mop. This looks like a mop. This looks like a handbag. Uh, Sweet pepper sliced down the middle. A typewriter. Another piece of pudding. This looks like another bag. But our mind's eye, to make sense of what we are seeing, quickly defaulted and made the assumption that we are seeing faces. We are not seeing faces, but we are seeing faces, but they're not faces. I'm making the point that when we're out of habit, when we're functioning out of patterns, we are not conscious. We are not present. Let's go back to my 9 dots. Let's make the challenge even more exciting. I want you to connect up these 9 dots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I want to connect up these 9 dots using only one straight line. You can only use one straight line. This also stumps most people. So, here's the answer. You just need a broader line. You just need a broader line. The challenge with habits or the challenge with patterns is that they're useful until they're not. Our brains crave familiarity. And so it very quickly seeks to establish a pattern. And those patterns quickly lead to our habits. And when we function of habits, I've said it 1,000 times now, we are not present. Take a look.
You're on WR 107. It is Captain Dr. Joan Stevenson, Commander. Patience. We're going to be taking the comedy hour. We've got Joey Vega live and exclusive.
I'll invite some comments. What did you see? We're talking about habits. What did you see? Any comments?
All right, I'm waiting on the comments because the YouTube is on a 20-second delay. So they say it's
Okay.
slightly after. Yes.
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
yeah.
So here we have a cyclist who is on the road, rightfully so, but every time he comes to a stop, he finds conveniently this car against which he can rest his hand. He does it once. He does it a second time. And what that establishes is how quickly habits are formed. So by the time he goes to do it the third time, the driver in annoyance reverses. So the thing that he's expecting to be there, that is the car to support him, is not there. And we know then that calamity ensues.
Yeah, we have revenge. Frustration.
That's on the part of the driver. Yeah?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, but so my focus is on the cyclist. We see him put his hand the first time, we see him put his hand the second time. And he's about to put his hand the third time. And I'm using that clip to make the point of how easily our habits are formed. Yeah? Very formed very easily. Any other comments are coming in?
Yeah, we have habit coming in as well.
Okay, all right. So the habit was picked up.
Yes.
And so when we are functioning, another point to be made is that when we are functioning out of habit, we are not present. We are making assumptions and we are not present. And so what we need to do next is to understand what really is involved in the establishing of habits. What's really involved. So I'm going to ask our listeners to think of some habit that they've been struggling with for some period of time, some habit that they want to give up, whatever that habit is, whatever that habit happens to be. Think of some habit that you've been struggling with. You know, Scripture says, in all thy getting, get wisdom. That cost you all you have, get understanding. And the Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu says, he who understands himself is wise. So let's spend a little time trying to understand ourselves in the context of our habits. So think of some habit that you are struggling with, and I use that term, struggling with. I'm going to ask you to identify a number of things. What does the habit do for you? What benefit do you write? Even though it is a habit you want to give up, what really is the reward? What really is the benefit of the habit once you engage in the habit? What really is the benefit? So think of a habit.
So far we have eating late.
No, that's the behavior.
That's the behavior.
That's the behavior. What I'm asking is, what does it do for you? What does it do for you? So to help persons figure this one out. At the end of the day, all our behavior has an emotional basis. All of our behavior has an emotional basis. And there are two prime drivers: pleasure and pain. We seek to acquire, to experience or acquire pleasure, and we seek to avoid pain. So the reward is some pleasure that we derive or some pain that we avoid. So in spite of the struggle, what ultimately does the habit give you? What does it allow you to experience by way of pleasure or the avoidance of pain? Can you be specific?
Okay. We have eating late. We have biting nails. We have I bite my nails when I'm working through a process.
That is still behavior. That is still behavior.
Yeah.
That is still
Right. So
behavior.
again, the behaviors come. The lateness,
Yeah.
trying to get things done before leaving home.
Mm-hmm.
I'm up late working. I'm tired. My body tells me if I eat, I'll feel energized.
Mm-hmm. Right. So what I'm chasing is energy. What I'm chasing is a feeling of energy. Yeah.
Right.
Right. Mm. So I know this is a new experience for most persons, but this is where we need to go if we are going to uncover those habits that are leading to our ineffectiveness. Not only just uncover them, but if we're going to be able to change them, or not change, but replace them, because what we say is that you don't change habits, you replace habits. Yeah. All right. So the next thing you need to consider now is, what is it that gets me going? What is it that triggers the behavior? And it could be a thought, it could be a feeling, or it could be some stimulus that comes through our five senses. What is it that triggers? What is it that gets me going? So once you're thinking about that, I suspect persons on the chat or on the call have traveled, most have traveled somewhere. Certainly if you go to North America, um, and you go into the mall, you're going to come across Cinnabons. Everybody loves a Cinnabon. Oh man. Have you observed that you will not find a Cinnabon in the food court? All Cinnabons are away from the food court, even though it is a food item. And that is because they want that when you come around the corner, the only smell you get is the smell of that Cinnabon, because they know that once that prompt, that trigger, and we use another term, that cue hits you, the rest is history. You're cooked goose. You're going to walk straight for that Cinnabon. And you're going to take a few that you're going to eat in that moment, and you take a few that you want to take back to your hotel room or take somewhere with you. I make that point to make the point that there are persons who understand us better than we understand ourselves, and what ultimately drives our behavior. So we need to get to a place where we ourselves recognize what are the cues, what are the triggers that prompt the behavior in the chase of the reward. So I need to understand the reward, and I need to understand the cue. The trick then is to change the behavior, having recognized the cue. How can I achieve the same reward when this cue presents? How do I achieve the same reward without engaging in a behavior that undermines me? So let's look at this diagram here. So the cue is a trigger that tells your brain which routine to use. And that routine is stored in your subconscious mind. Yeah? The routine is the physical, mental, or emotional behavior that follows the cue. The reward is that positive stimulus that tells your brain that the routine works and works well. All behavior is learned behavior, and all behavior is mounted or is engaged in to satisfy an emotional need. I trust you're making notes. Let me go through that again. Trigger presents, the routine engages, and I receive the reward. All of that is learned behavior. There's a piece I didn't talk about earlier, which is the craving. The craving is that thing that powers past, that thing that I say that I want. So, I want to exercise. I want to exercise. It is 6 o'clock. The wind, the morning is nice and cool and cold, and the blanket feels so warm. The warmth, that sense of warmth, overpowers my desire to get on the bike or to go riding. I want that warmth. So that until I can switch that around, where my desire for health is more powerful than my craving of the warmth, I'm going to find myself stuck in this cue, routine, and reward. Cue, routine, and reward. So go back to that habit that you thought about at the top end. Spend a little bit of time thinking about what is the reward, what is it that I ultimately get, even though I don't want this particular habit, I want to get rid of this particular habit. What is the reward? What is the pleasure I eventually get? What is the pain that I avoid? Because one of those two things is in play. So I need to fix that in your consciousness, because we're trying to understand how to replace a habit. So what is the reward? Sense of achievement, some moment of pleasure. What really is the reward you derive from the habit? And do you have a sense of what triggers you? What is it that prompts? What is it that gets you into action? Like, what is it that gets you to leave where you are and move towards the fridge? Is it a song that you heard on the television, or is it an ad you see on the television? Is it something that happens at a particular time of the day, a particular time of the night? What is the cue? Is it some thought that enters your mind? And then what is the routine? What is the behavior that you're engaging? I'm not sure if persons are ready now to share those three: cue, routine, and reward. Again, you can put your comments in the chat. Nothing coming in as yet?
Not as yet. I'm still waiting for them to come in.
Okay.
All All right. So Percival is saying the reward of getting what you want.
Can you be more specific?
Some sense.
Part of the challenge here is that most of us don't spend sufficient time in what I'm going to describe as self-awareness. And so the work I'm asking you to do tonight may be challenging because we don't spend a lot of time in introspection, in reflection. We don't spend enough time seeking to understand ourselves. We don't spend enough time trying to understand our patterns. So I may be pushing you to a place where you don't normally go. Let me suggest it is a place that you know you need to go to often. That where we are challenged with issues, especially with those issues are repetitive in our lives, the ability to step back and ask ourselves these questions. What's my trigger? What's the trigger? How do I benefit? Even though I don't want the behavior, how do I really benefit? What really is the benefit? Because, go on.
Yeah, Dawn is saying that Dawn is the person who said she works late, eats late at night. So she said, if I stay awake, I can get things in my to-do list done.
Right.
Right.
And so here's the question. What does getting the to-do list done do for you? How does it make you feel? What's the feeling that erupts because you have completed your to-do list? Is it a sense of accomplishment? Is it, well, at least the boss is not going to quarrel with me. You know, no one's going to quarrel with me tomorrow because my list is complete. So is it I'm trying to avoid some pain? Or is there some pleasure that I'm going to derive from it? Because we have to be very clear in our minds as to what the reward is. Because if I'm sure in my mind as to what the reward is, then I can figure out what change in behavior do I need to adopt so that I can still achieve the reward that I'm really, really chasing. And that is why this kind of introspective work is so critical. Notice that the cue is still going to remain the same.
She says accomplishment, Tony.
Accomplishment, a sense of accomplishment. Yes. So how else can I achieve that sense of accomplishment without having to work late at night? What change in behavior do I need to adopt so that I can still achieve that sense of accomplishment and not work late at night and then find myself eating late at night? And so that's the question that person now needs to spend some time with. If I'm clear in my mind that my reward is that sense of accomplishment, how do I derive that? So I probably have a practice of a time where, you know, I don't complete all the items on my to-do list. Is it that I set goals that are a little bit too ambitious? Do I set goals that I don't give myself sufficient time? Have I taken on tasks that I can otherwise assign so that I can still accomplish those things that I've set out to accomplish and have that sense of accomplishment? Notice that the cue will remain the same, the reward will remain the same. What I've got to figure out is what is the change in behavior. But the change in behavior means tremendous clarity in determining what is the reward that I derive from this behavior. Then go to work on changing the behavior. Can we get one more?
All right, we're still with Dawn.
Okay.
She said, and well, in relation to the previous part, I'm not increasing my tomorrow list. So when she works
Ah,
late, it means that her list tomorrow is not longer because she didn't complete stuff today. And then she said one of the solutions would be to make a shorter list.
right. So as I was saying just now, that perhaps means what are some of my tasks that I can delegate? Um, it might mean I need to spend some time training someone who can also take on some of those more menial tasks. Yes? So that I less and less find myself in this position. The key here, Lennox, the key here is the practice of self awareness. The key here is to spend less time looking out and more time looking in, developing self awareness. Take a listen.
Becoming more self-aware is the first step in many aspects of personal growth. What are the benefits of self-awareness? How do you start becoming more observant of yourself? You can't fix a problem that you don't know exists. That's where the benefits of self-awareness come in. It allows you to see yourself more clearly. As a result, you can use that as a starting point for many parts of your personal growth journey. Self-awareness theory is based on the idea that you are not your thoughts, but the entity observing your thoughts. You are the thinker, separate and apart from your thoughts. We can all go about our day without giving our inner self any extra thought, merely thinking and feeling and acting as we will. However, we can also focus our attention on that inner self. We can be both introspective and reflective. When we engage in self-introspection and self-reflection, we're giving thought to whether we're thinking and feeling and acting as we should or following our vision and values. Now, what happens when you become self-aware? Well, here are some of the benefits of becoming more self-aware. Becoming more satisfied with your job, being able to better manage your emotions, better leadership skills, improved relationships, higher levels of happiness, more creativity, better communication, better decision-making skills, more confidence, and we're more likely to make better choices.
So someone asks, are habits a bad thing or a good thing? They're neither. The outcomes may be good or bad, pleasant, unpleasant, desired, undesired. Habits just are. Our habits are those patterns that have developed in our minds over time. They tell us that by the time you are 2 years old, 50% of how you present as an adult, how you see yourself, your place in the world, how you get your needs met, how you engage with others, 50% of that is in place by the time you are 2 years old. So these scripts, these patterns are established in our minds from very early. They say upwards to 70, 85% is in place by the time we are 7 years old. So today at 40, 50, 60, 70, whatever our age is, we have a set of programs, maps, models, paradigms that we use to navigate life. Certain ways of thinking, feeling, and behaving. So we have habits of thought, habits of feeling, and habits of behaving. The question is, do my habits allow me to achieve the happiness, the success, the freedom, the relationships that I want in my life. I can't replace the habit if I'm not first aware of the cue, if I have not sufficiently sussed out what is the reward. You know, why do I do the things that I desire not to do, and find myself doing the things? Yeah, why do I find myself doing the things that I ought not to do, and not doing the things that I ought to do? Again, it has to do with the difference between conscious thought when I'm present, when I'm in the moment, and unconscious thought when I'm flowing in out of habit. I'm in an unconscious space. In fact, the research is saying that our brain activity. So you're driving down to work one morning. You know when you leave home, you've switched on the engine, you've backed up the garage, and you've gone on the road. 15 minutes later, 20 minutes later, whatever time later, you are at work. But you have no real recall of the journey that you took, because your brain activity significantly reduces in that space where you're literally driving on automatic. You're driving, but your mind is on all kinds of things. And hey, is what happens with the question I asked at the top end. The fact that a Saturday morning when I'm not due for work, or a public holiday morning when I'm not due for work, I leave home to visit someone, do something, go somewhere, but I find myself at work, because in that space, your habit of thought and behavior took over. And so all the research is telling us that your brain activity significantly reduces when you're flowing over that place of habit. No, I said they're neither good nor bad. Habits allow us to be efficient, allow our brains to be efficient. So for example, if my hand is going close to the fire, automatically my system will pull back. That's good. That allows me to be protected. But there are habits that we have that undermine our effectiveness. The key again is what we said and saw in the video just now. That ability to be aware, to be in the moment, to be present. Another term that you're going to hear more frequently now is to be mindful. If we are not mindful, we are mindless. And when we are mindless, we are flowing out of that unconscious space. And in that unconscious space, oftentimes our responses to the stimuli that present in life is inappropriate, because what is presented in a moment doesn't quite fit some pattern that we already have in our mind's eye, in our perception of things. And that's why I use that video to close out the sum of my presentation to you. The key really is the practice of self-awareness, mindfulness, being present, being in the moment, being reflective, being introspective, so that even when you find yourself walking into the routine of the habit, the routine component of the habit, can I pull myself back? Or I go right through and can carry the routine to the end, then I do spend time reflecting. What got me just now? And that's where we talk about becoming the observer of ourselves. That when I become the observer, I am then elevating the capacity to become the master of my choices, the choice to take responsibility for the choices that I am making. I think I'm seeing another question. Oh yes. Any other questions, Lennox?
I'm checking. Not questions yet.
Okay. So
So
what are my key?
you want us to invite some questions now?
Sure, yes.
Okay. So as they're coming, I'll
Okay.
I'll alert you. I know that one of the things that persons talk about a lot as a habit they have is procrastination. How do persons overcome the habit of procrastination?
The question still raises, what benefit are you deriving? What reward are you deriving from the procrastination? As painful as it is, what is the benefit? You have to figure out how do I benefit from the practice of procrastination? You got to figure that out. The person has to figure out for themselves, how do I benefit from the practice of procrastination? And then how else can I achieve that benefit? What behavior do I need to engage in so that I still derive that benefit, but function from a place now where I'm not injuring myself? So what is the benefit? I'm trying to think of what is the benefit to be had from procrastination. Ease, rest, the absence of stress in the moment. What is the benefit? That really is the key. What is the benefit? So if I can figure out what the benefit is, the next question becomes, what is the new behavior I need to engage in so that I still derive that benefit? So I have a lot of work to do. I'm thinking it through. I have a lot of work to do. I have a number of things on my desk to be completed. So the cue is I see my to-do list. So something goes, and I postpone that. How can I get to that place of rest? How can I still get to that place where I am restful in the moment? Then the person has to figure out what are the behaviors I need to engage in so that I can still derive that rest, that place of comfort that I'm seeking. I think I saw another question here.
Yeah, somebody, Marshall said definitely the absence of stress.
Yes.
This is in relation to procrastination.
The absence of stress. So what new behaviors do I need to engage in so that I don't have stress manifesting in my life? So I know what it is that I'm really chasing. What I'm really chasing, and another concept in your question of habits is the craving. What is it that I'm really chasing is the absence of stress. I don't like stress. Therefore, what is the behavior I need to engage in now so that over time I minimize the stress in my life? Can your bringing by your parents help you to have a better response to clearly? And that is why parenting is so important. It's a two-edged sword. It can either harm you, undermine you, or it can prepare you to be effective in your adult life. So parenting is a critical component of how we present as adults. Goes back to the comment I made just now that 50% of how we present as adults is in place by the time we are 2, and that's primarily parenting. Well, these days a lot of our kids go to nurseries, but parents still be a tremendous influence in their children's lives. Any other questions? I know no one has asked a question about food and eating and diet. That's a biggie for many of us. The major health issue for us now, apart from COVID, is non-communicable diseases, which again is about lifestyle, it's about our habits, the foods we eat. So what is the reward I get from overeating, not eating the right foods? What's the pleasure I get? And if I can clearly define that, then how can I derive that pleasure using different behaviors? And what will those behaviors need to be? We'll take one more.
Yeah, I was actually hoping that you would help us with that question a little bit, because it's something that a lot of people struggle with, the whole idea of eating, and based on where we're going, and looking at the whole concept of mindfulness and self-reflection and all that. If we start considering, okay, why do I eat lots of sweet things, and how do we actually replace that satisfaction?
That pleasure.
Is it a mental thing, the pleasure that we get from eating something
pleasure.
that is sweet?
It's emotional.
How do we change that?
It's emotional. It's this satisfaction, the pleasure, the joy of, yeah. The key is to have, and I can speak now, this is really out of personal experience. I personally struggled for a long time to take meat out of my diet. But it has become easier as I've gotten older, because I've recognized that the vast majority of my life is behind me. And I want to enjoy as best as I can a quality of life that is, sound mind, sound body, even though with time, mind and body, etc., are going to decline. And so as I've gotten older, it's become easier for me to adopt habits that are in concert with my desire to live a high quality of life in my older age, because I recognize that my body's ability to recover when I go astray is not as strong as it used to be, say 20, 30, 40 years ago. So I have to become extremely conscious, deliberate, and intentional around what I eat, what time of the day I eat, how often I eat, the use of sugar, the use of meat, etc. Those decisions have become easier once I fix my focus on something larger than the present pleasure of whatever the item happens to be. Does it mean I don't eat a sweet? No, I will still eat a sweet. I will still have a plus. I might still taste a piece of pork, but I have significantly cut back, because I have this larger sense of life and what I want my life to be about. And that goes back then to the whole question of the craving. What's it that I really, really want? I know what I want. What is it that I really, 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 really want? And to the extent that now looms larger than the short-term pleasure, it becomes easy to say no when the cue presents. If I am mindful that the cue has presented, then I can make a decision about my behavior. Yeah? And then to be sure that that behavior is in concert with this larger picture, this larger thing that I say that I want. All right, somebody says here, sometimes people have habits that they are not aware of and need to be informed by someone close to them. Part of the self-awareness may be asking people close to you what are the things that I appear to do unconsciously, then they can take the cues of the rewards. Yeah, right. So inviting feedback. I like the way Les Brown puts it. Is Les Brown one of those? No, it's Les Brown. It's not Les Brown. No. I know it is, but his name isn't coming back to me. But he says it this way. He says, feedback is the breakfast of champions. That those people who excel in life, one of the things that characterizes them is the embrace of feedback. Most of us repel feedback. We call it criticism. Um, I can see him now. He's right in front of me. But he says feedback is the breakfast of champions. It's why world-class performers, athletes, musicians, etc. They have coaches, and the role of the coach is to help them see what they are not seeing. Feedback is the breakfast of champions. So yes, I would agree with this person. If you can find persons with whom you have a high trust relationship, or persons who have an interest in and commitment to your own development and your own growth, invite those people in. We use the term cabinet. Invite them into your cabinet, and from time to time ask the question, how am I doing? These are the kind of people who can hold you accountable for the new behaviors that you say that you want to adopt. How can we set reminders to stop a bad habit? By focusing on the good habits. It's a question of where you keep your focus. So my recommendation to this question is not to focus on the bad habit. One of the things we teach is that your subconscious mind cannot process not. It can't process a negative. So it's like the chap who says, I don't want to be like my father. Guess what? He becomes like his father because his father is his only point of reference. Until he says, I want to become X or I want to become Y, and he takes out that new point of reference, then he's stuck because his only point of reference is the thing that he doesn't want. So he has to determine what is it that I want, and let that be the point of focus and the framework for the conscious decision making.
All right, some of the folks in the chat, Tony, are telling you that it was Ken Blanchard, is the person you quoted earlier.
Ken Blanchard, breakfast? Yes,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I had someone else, Tracy. Not Dick Tracy. Brian Tracy was the person that was in mind. But it could be Blanchard. Breakfast is the nonsense. Feedback is the breakfast of champions. Thanks. So there you have it, folks. There you have it. A habit isn't just a habit. A habit is comprised of the trigger, i.e. the cue, that thing that gets us. It can be a thought, it could be a feeling, or it could be some stimulus that comes through one or more of our five senses. I use the example of the cinnamon bun in the malls in the United States, where they deliberately put their shops away from the food court because they don't want the smell of the cinnamon bun mixed up with the chicken and all that stuff. So they want to hone in. They want you to hone in on them. So what's the trigger? What's the cue? What's the reward? What do I get out of it at the end? You need to clarify that as you want to drill down as deeply, not just at the surface level, but at a deep level. What is the emotional need that this habit satisfies? At the deepest possible level, what is it that this habit satisfies? So I have the awareness of the cue. I understand clearly the reward that I derived, even at a very deep subconscious level. Now I can go to work on figuring out what is the behavior change that I can adopt so that when the cue presents, by changing this behavior, I can still achieve the reward that I say that I want. For some of us, it might take some extensive period of one-on-one coaching with someone to help you think through, because it's the difficulty most persons had this evening in getting to that place where they could clearly define. Most people spoke about the behaviors and had difficulty getting to, was it that I really derived? How do I benefit? What's the reward for me in engaging in this behavior? So it might take someone working with you to help you think through, work through, process that clear understanding of the reward, and then what are the behavioral shifts I need to make so that in time, the habit today that is undermining me, I've replaced the routine within the original habit so that I can now live a productive, healthy, happy, and balanced life. So thanks again for inviting me in to have this conversation with you. I trust you found benefit. And if anybody wants to have a one-on-one conversation, that's something that we can easily accommodate. If the issue you're working with is really, really troubling and you've had some difficulty working past it.
Well, I want to thank you so much, Mr. Toney Olton, for coming this evening and for challenging us in the ways that you did. I love sessions like this that give us not just benefits for the moment, but residual benefits, things that we can think about over time and that we can apply to our lives, things that are practical. And like you said in your presentation, we are all creatures of habit. And examining our habits and seeing if they are helping or hindering our progress in life becomes something that is extremely important. Hence, self-awareness becomes something that is important to all of us.
Critical.
So I just trust that, all those persons who participated tonight, we had over 100 persons at points on YouTube following us, are able to have some big takeaways from tonight's session. And thank you very much for taking us deep and for making us think, and pushing us out of our comfort zones, to use that proverbial phrase, but which is very
well. It is more than a proverbial phrase. It is the only place where growth takes place.
Yeah.
That place of discomfort.
Pushing us out of that point, where we can grow and develop. And I think that tonight's presentation has really given us a great start to our Family Life Enrichment series. So thank you so much for your presentation this evening. And we bless the Lord for you and for your work with the Potter Center. We just want to let you know that next week, we're going to be having a twin session where we are having Living Your Best Life, Marriage Wows. And that session is going to be presented by Pastor and Mrs. Cotton, and also Pastor and Mr. Chisholm from the Solid Rock Church of God in Florida. So we have two couples that will form a panel for the session for couples, and then we have a uniquely single session with Paula Richards. So we will give you all the details of the rooms that we will be in for these sessions so that you know. And we would want only single people to be in the session for singles and only married people to be in the session for couples. And we want you to invite your friends to come and participate in these sessions. They're going to be riveting sessions, and you are not going to be disappointed that you took the time to come and to participate. That's going to be next Wednesday, the 18th of May. Please look out for the links and for the information. Share the flyers far and wide, and let persons know that when they come in on the 18th into the session for married persons, there will be in a session where only couples will be there. And when you come into the session for singles, you're going to be coming into a session where only singles will be there. So it means that the questions that you want to ask, the things you want to share and discuss will be shared and discussed in a setting that is conducive for persons like yourself. So we are excited to present this series to you. We look forward to seeing you in our next session. And please look out for information about all the sessions that will be taking place over the next 6 weeks. So it's great to have you join us for our Family Life Enrichment series. May God bless you and we look forward to seeing you next time.